afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar on the 2013 OneCPD TA NOFA, or Notice of Funding Availability. My name is Julie Hovden, and I am the Director of the Technical Assistance Division in the Office of Community Planning and Development. Presenting with me today are my team leads in the Division of Technical Assistance. Pat Felton to my immediate left, Ken Rogers in the middle, and Sylvia Purvis to my far left. The learning objectives for today will allow participants to better understand what OneCPD technical assistance is, how to apply for the funding available, and the changes between NOFAs in previous years and this year's 2013 OneCPD NOFA. Here is the agenda for today's meeting. It's fairly self-explanatory, so I'm not going to read each item. And while this agenda does not include time for live questions and answers or Q&A, at the end of this webinar, I will discuss how participants can submit questions to HUD for the follow-up webinar. We will be having a follow-up webinar addressing questions submitted in May. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Pat Felton to give an overview of OneCPD TA. Pat?
So many are asking, what is OneCPD? OneCPD is a way of providing help to local communities to solve housing and community development problems or challenges. One way to help these communities is providing technical assistance. This allows HUD to fund providers or experts we call technical assistance providers to help grantees and their partners manage and implement CPD's programs. The OneCPD method is very different from the traditional TA in that providers assist with multiple CPD programs at one time instead of individually. Now, prior to OneCPD, technical assistance was delivered in a way that was not cross-cutting. I'll discuss demand response model in a minute. What is technical assistance? Technical assistance is guidance which allows grantees to overcome lack of skills and knowledge to solve community development issues. This guidance results in improving performance and compliance with HUD programs. Capacity building. Capacity building differs from technical assistance in that it's less program specific and more overarching. Capacity building strives to help communities think outside of the CPD box of funding and look across all funding sources and achieve results that expand affordable housing, community development, and economic development. Let's discuss the demand response model. In essence, the demand response model says HUD identifies the assistance for a community and the technical assistance provider conducts the work as assigned. Or HUD tells the provider what the work is to be done and the provider does it. We'll now have Ken Rogers discuss the application process.
Yes, the application process for the OneCPD NOFA for fiscal year 2013 is pretty similar to the last year's application process. All applicants must sign up with grants.gov for notifications on the NOFA, and that's where the announcement for the NOFA will be. And that's a very simple website, www.grants.gov. Also, applications will be done on grants.gov. The application process is done there, and there on the slide you see the actual website for that. That is where all applicants will apply for the NOFA once it's been published. It's very important that all applicants read the fiscal year 2013 Notice of Funding Availability NOFA Policy Requirements and General Section for Discretionary Programs. This was published back in August 8th, 2012. in grants.gov. That will give you overarching general requirements for applying for the NOFA. It's very important that every applicant read the OneCPD NOFA and follow all instructions. Another requirement for the application process is every applicant must have a Dun & Bradstreet Data Universal Numbering System, a DUNS number. These are required. For information on obtaining a DUNS number, please refer to the hud.gov.grants.index website that's being posted there on the screen. Also, the change that has happened this year from previous application process, current registration in the Central Contractor Registry, the CCR, is now required. CCR is now part of a new system for awards management called SAMS, and the information there is at www.sams.gov.portal/public/SAM. Everybody needs to make sure that they register with SAMS. SAMS replaced the old Central Contract Register and Federal Register, the Online Representation and Certification Applicant, and the Excluded Parties List System. If you have any questions about SAM, you can ask the frequently asked questions at www.fsd.gov/app/answers/list. This information will also be published in the NOFA. Application process. Eligible applicants for the NOFA are a state or unit of general government, a public housing authority, a public or private nonprofit organization or intermediary, including educational institutions and area-wide planning organizations, Indian tribes, or for-profit organizations. Excluded from applying from the NOFA are single persons. These are not eligible for this NOFA. Activities under the NOFA process that we're looking for. Eligible activities, needs assessment. The needs assessment of grantees will be conducted by the TA providers as prescribed by HUD. Direct TA and capacity building engagements. These also will be conducted by the TA provider upon completion of needs assessments and approved by HUD. Development and maintain tools and products. These are either existing products or tools or new ones that under the NOFA an awardee would be designated and directed to provide. These new courses would have must be accompanied by train the trainer notes and other information that would allow HUD or another TA provider to step into that training. And self-directed and learning groups. These would be approved by HUD, and it's a means of the provider to come in and do the training sessions and trainers to learn how to give training to the needed grantees. Now over to Sylvia Purvis for the summary of the changes for the fiscal year 2013 NOFA.
Thanks, Ken. CPD did not include funding for core curricular in this NOFA, and there are other changes that have been made, so it's really important to pay close attention to these areas. In the FY 2011-2012 OneCPD TA NOFA, applicants indicated they were applying to conduct cross-program, targeted and focused TA, or both. For 2013, these designations have been removed. 3 forms are no longer required, and they are the Technical Assistance and Capacity Building Applicant Experience Form, the Technical Assistance and Capacity Building Expertise Form, and the Active Technical Assistance Awards Form. Those are HUD Forms 40044, HUD Form 40045, and HUD Form 40050. Because the applicant experience and expertise are included in the narrative response, the maximum number of pages has been increased. For rating factor 1A, in the past, the experience matrix with a shorter narrative was used to evaluate this sub-factor. For the 2013 NOFA, HUD is interested in getting a clearer snapshot of performance capability and is asking each applicant to describe 2 TA engagements conducted within the past 18 months. The summary must include task descriptions and methods used to determine the necessity of those tasks, a synopsis of the TA delivery, including details of number of hours spent, number of trips taken, and associated costs. In addition, you'll need to identify the name, affiliated organization, and roles of up to 5 key personnel responsible for conducting the TA. An explanation of how your organization complied with the award provisions while conducting the TA and your accomplishments for each engagement is required. And lastly, just so we can confirm the exceptional TA you delivered in those past 18 months, we'd like to contact the entities you served. So we'll need the name, number, and email address of points of contact. Please be sure that you carefully craft your responses so that they include all the required information. Also, HUD is seeking organizations that can demonstrate complete understanding of technical assistance with the capability to provide TA in such a way that it delivers measurable outputs and outcomes. To meet this requirement, in rating factor 2B, applicants must identify 2 activities that will increase the skills or expertise of grantees, subrecipients, and other stakeholders to effectively, efficiently, and appropriately use grant funds and select an outcome for each activity. Remember, an outcome is identified as the results achieved or benefits derived from the technical assistance or capacity building which supports the objectives of HUD or CPD programs. In rating factor 2C, you will be evaluated on your ability to develop a direct TA and capacity building work plan related to the scenario you've selected. For rating factor 3A, HUD is looking to evaluate methods and measures. For each of the 4 broad eligible activities identified in the NOFA, applicants should describe the general methods and measures to be used to evaluate the effectiveness of its TA or capacity building activities. Rating factor 3B, HUD is looking to see the quantifiable outcomes or outputs and how those would be measured for each task proposed in factor 2C. Again, an outcome is defined as the results achieved or benefits derived from the technical assistance or capacity building which supports the objectives of HUD or CPD programs. Now back to Julie.
Thank you, Sylvia. We wanted to go through and give some sort of tips and pointers. So we've called these the do's and don'ts in the application process. As has been mentioned previously, do carefully read both the general section and the OneCPD Notice of Fund Availability or NOFA. That is probably the most important thing that an applicant can do, is carefully read. I can't stress that enough. If multiple applications are submitted by an applicant, only the last one will be reviewed. So please be careful to only submit one application via grants.gov. We no longer have core curricula, so there is no need to have multiple applications under this NOFA. Another area that people need to be sure to follow is the page limitation. The NOFA is very clear. It says a 12-point font with a 1/2-inch margin. That means please do not give us a 9-point font with a 1/4-inch margin. Please adhere to the requirements in the NOFA. All NOFA applications must be submitted on single-sided and following the page limits as outlined in the NOFA. We do provide a checklist to guide applicants. You're not required and should not submit that checklist. It's for your use only. Another area that applicants sometimes decide to send us extra information in the form of evaluations, letters of recommendation, whether it be from another organization, a nonprofit in the area, even congressional letters of recommendation. Please don't submit those. They are not considered and they are simply thrown away. So we would be wasting valuable resources in the name of trees and paper. So please do not send us any information that is not required by the NOFA, since we don't consider or review it at all. Finally, it's really important to allow enough time for your CCR/SAM registration. If you do not have a Dun & Bradstreet number and you intend to apply, please do so immediately. Please apply for one through Dun & Bradstreet right away. You will need to make sure well in advance of the closing of the competition that you are registered in SAM, that everything is taken care of. We also, as a second best piece of advice from HUD, please submit your application via grants.gov at least 1 day, if not 2 days, ahead of the deadline. We have had instances where there has been a non-validation. In other words, grants.gov has not accepted someone's application, and they have to have time to resubmit it. If you wait until the very last minute, you will not have time to go through another process and have it validated. HUD does not receive any applications not validated by grants.gov, and there is no ability to come back and appeal that. There is no ability to submit one on paper the next day. That means an applicant simply would not be able to compete in this round of funding. So it's really important that applicants understand that when 11/59/59 on the deadline date comes up, if you reach midnight, you cannot submit in grants.gov, and we cannot accept an application at HUD. I mentioned earlier in the broadcast that we were having a follow-up webinar. What we are encouraging applicants and potential applicants to do is read through both the general section and the OneCPD NOFA very, very carefully and send us your questions. My email address is listed there, Julie, julie.d.hovden@hud.gov. Please send your questions directly to me. I will be funneling them off to my team leads who are sitting here with me to craft the answers. We will then do a follow-up webinar where we address all of the questions submitted by any applicant. And we will be posting that in May so that within plenty of time for applicants to review the responses to those questions, view the webinar before they prepare their final version of their application for submission to HUD via grants.gov. So again, please be sure to send your questions in a timely manner. It means as soon as you've read the NOFA, gather your questions. You can submit questions more than once. Just don't please submit the same question more than once. But we will allow folks to submit questions for 2 weeks after, up until 2 weeks after the publication of the NOFA. If questions are submitted after that date, they will not be included in the webinar, but we will provide response as quickly as we can. Thank you, and we look forward to receiving your applications.